Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. It's Dr. Gemma. And this is the 100th episode of the new series of Cognitive. Wow! That's actually not the big deal it might sound, because I stopped somewhere on the original series at about episode 220. So this is really something like episode 320. And also, when you've been around for, well, what is that, 14 years? And you've only done 300 episodes, you're not that excited. The thrill is kind of gone, kids. But anyway, happy 100th episode of the new series. I thought fittingly the title should be Still Here, because that's what it feels like. Like, I look at all the podcasts that I've loved that have gone away, and there have been many, and I think, wow, it's really odd that I'm still here. And I also notice that the tone is so different now. I'm not the frenzied canner, preserver, runner, distance runner, recipe developer, seamstress, whatever that I used to be. I feel like now it's like, hi guys, I started when I'm 48, now I'm 62. I'm just grateful for things like my eyeballs didn't explode this year. Touch wood. Okay. But anyway, happy 100th. I suppose it is a kind of landmark in the warm thanks department. Once again, warm thanks to everybody who's expressing their concerns for the beloved husband. He's doing great. Everything has settled down. He's got his 2-week appointment to see his doc this week, but his vision is doing what it does, and it's pretty good. He lost a little bit of the retina on his right eye, so apparently he's getting a little darkness at the bottom of his right field of vision in his right eye. And as you can imagine, what's probably going to happen is he'll stop noticing it after a certain amount of time, that his brain will just adapt to that missing field of vision. So it's a little weird for him, but he's doing really well. He's been just wonderful and heroic through the whole thing, and he has quietly taken up his normal life and our normal life here on the farm with our 16-year-old son. So things are pretty normal here, and it's weird to call an episode Still Here, except if I have learned one thing in the last year, because all this started with his cataract surgery in January. If I have learned one thing in this last year, it's just to be grateful for the mundane every day, for the days that go by with relatively few concerns and just the normal day-to-day concerns. I'm staggering in my speech a little bit because Minerva is at the left side of my chair, threatening to jump into my lap, and my lap has wires in it because I'm hooked up to my computer right now in Zoom because I'm supposed to be hosting a meeting and nobody's showing up, as they normally don't, which means I get this hour to kind of do what I want. It makes no sense, except I'm recording this, and to me it's like a vlog because I'm looking at my image on the Zoom camera, just bouncing back and forth in the chair. My life is not normal, but it certainly is wonderful. Warm thanks also to Knitting Hiker. Welcome back. Nice to have you back. Nice to see you again around Rancho Cognitive. Thank you for the excellent pattern, the Sheltie mitts from Jordik Lindvik. And I did put the link to her entire catalog in Ravelry on the show notes because Knitting Hiker took me to her and showed me that she has this wonderful mitten pattern that's also socks and a hat. And she did it for Shelties, but frankly, it's collies would work just fine, so you know what I'll be knitting this year for the Sunnybank folk. But also, Jorid Lindvik has an amazing catalog of just wonderful Norwegian type patterns, which is good since she seems to be Norwegian. Anyway, thank you so much, Knitting Hiker. The link alone would make me cherish you, but it's nice to have you back around the Cognitive Ranch. Also, Chris, there's another great username. I would like you to know that I breastfed my son until he weaned himself naturally at nearly 3 years old. And so when people are coming after you for breastfeeding your kid, the research shows kids do best emotionally and in terms of health when they're allowed to wean themselves naturally. We all recognize that there are a lot of reasons that is not able to happen. We don't want to start harassing women because they can't breastfeed or because other aspects of their life prevent it. I mean, let's be real. We don't live in a culture that's very friendly to this. But please do not let people drive you crazy if you're nursing your child and he's not weaned and he's not showing a sign of weaning. The research suggests most kids wean naturally somewhere around 3. Okay, so well done you, and hang in there. I have to say, too, being someone who was able to breastfeed that long and that late in life, because I had my son when I was 45, so it amazed me that my milk supply held out, but that's probably the Amish and Italian blood. We are born to have children, let me tell you. But what really surprised me was not the harassment, but the support. And I am in Southern California, so that is a good area in terms of liberal viewpoints. Why feeding your own child the way nature intended should be a liberal thing, I can't imagine, but apparently it is. But at any rate, I'm very grateful for the support I got in those days. And I had a lot of older women coming up to me and saying, good for you. We don't want to bully either side. We want to recognize there's a broad spectrum of behaviors, and this is the mother's business. But there's research on the health benefits. I also have to point out the thing nobody ever says, which is a lot of people start with the intention of breastfeeding for a long time and then they get pregnant again. And yeah, there's research on that too. It turns out you can breastfeed 2 at once. But really, you've got to think about what you're asking of the mother when you're doing that. So, this is a complicated discussion, is what I want you to get. The answer is you do the best you can with it. And we are not going to harass women for their behavior in this. We really have much bigger issues in this world than pestering women about whether they do or don't breastfeed. But hang in there, Chris. And it's good to hear that you're doing it and having success. Okay, COVID, yeah, I just got my next booster. I got the one that has different strains in it, so this is my first Pfizer shot. And for all of you who are hesitating, why? I have to tell you, my body is now used to hosting COVID antibodies, and so unlike those first 2 shots, which were kind of epic several years ago, nothing happened. The injection site was sore for a longer time than I would normally expect. That's it. I may have been a little tired that afternoon. If I was, I couldn't tell it apart from normal tired. So if you're worrying about your COVID booster, why? If you've been getting COVID shots, your body is adapting, guys. You're getting used to it. You're hosting it. Go get your shots. Okay, let's see what's going on here. What's on my hooks and needles? I am still in the quagmire of small projects. They're not real small. I mean, a skirt and socks, those aren't real small projects. It's been suggested that socks take as long and as many stitches as a sweater. Somebody actually did investigate that. No, sweaters are bigger than socks. But the odd thing is, socks take me a month and sweaters take me a month when I'm really dedicated to them. If only I were. I'm dedicated to nothing. I'm dedicated to ASL right now, my American Sign Language class. So I am not getting in the craft work I used to get in. However, next semester I cannot find an ASL class to take. So I am happily going to tell you that I will probably not be taking ASL after Christmas. Bummer, but I am hoping to make enough contacts in the deaf community to try to continue practicing without it. Ha 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 ha, says the woman who's been to like 4 deaf events and is too chicken to talk to any deaf people. Keep your fingers crossed. I am an optimist, if nothing else. In the meantime, the quagmire of projects. You are saying, come on, Gemma, tell me about your projects. I haven't touched the lane splitter skirt for a few weeks. I am so close to turning the corner onto the final triangle of it. That is, it's knit on the bias. It's a long rectangle. So you knit a triangle that expands up to a certain point. Then you turn only one corner and you go straight. And then you go straight for basically the circumference of your waist. And then you turn another corner and you're doing a triangle again that decreases. I'm very close to that last turn, but I'm not there yet. The don't know yet. Wow, I am zooming on that. I have really picked up impetus because I've begun to see the bottom of the endless box of yarn that I'm trying to get out of my study. And I actually did a count. It looks like I'm just about going to have enough yarn to make it 19 by 19 blocks, which is not good because realistically I need yarn to stitch the blocks together. So I'm looking at it and thinking I'm probably going to pull some of those squares apart and make it 18 by 18, in which case I'm pretty close. I think right now I'm going to hit the 300 blocks on October 25th. However, as I record this, it is October 18th, 2022, 1 week away. I'm pretty sure I'm at 300 blocks right now. I've got a few extra blocks because I've been really enthused. Why? Because I spent days knitting all the black yarn. And I'm glad I did because that's really giving me a lot of squares. However, when I started to let myself knit green yarn, because I'm almost done the black yarn, I've got one skein left, I suddenly started really enjoying it again and zooming. So I'm pretty sure I'm at 300 blocks right now. What am I really telling you? I'm telling you that I need to sit down and count these. I'm also probably telling you that the pattern's going to be framed in black. I've got a lot of black squares. So we'll see how that works out. But it is really my hot project right now, and my count is probably off. I'm probably 6 or 7 blocks ahead. I don't even care. At this point, I'm just booking through the yarn, and yeah, I may just simply take apart blocks and use them. I am not buying more yarn on this, she said, probably futilely, because the risk there is that I buy a skein of different colors so that I have enough yarn to stitch blocks together. Now I've got those skeins and I'm back at what do I do with this extra yarn? This is not a problem I plan to have. Whatever I have to do with the dimensions of this thing, of this blanket. The don't know yet, of course, is turning into a blanket. Meanwhile, I'm looking at unfinished stuff. Well, let me tell you that I'm zooming on my socks, the midsummer socks. That's really where I'm putting my attention besides the don't know yet. I'm on the second sock and I'm past the heel. I do them top down and I put in waste yarn for the heel. I'm past the heel. I've got probably about 2 inches left on the foot, and that's really good. I would like to be going into my October socks, which are usually Franken socks made up of stripes of leftover yarns. I may actually be able to pull that off, although they may not be as colorful this time. I'm debating if I want to just skip that and instead use one of my more harvest colored sock yarns to make harvest socks for October and November together. I don't even know if I have yarn to make Christmas socks. I like to get a Christmas colored yarn. However, as you can tell, I'm doing very little work on these things right now. So I don't even know if I want to get into another pair of socks or if I just want to finish the midsummers and then dedicate myself to finishing up some of my other projects. What are my other projects? Well, I'm on the second front panel of the Wrapped in Tiny Chains cardigan, which I highly recommend. It's a great pattern if you want to make a quick, easy cardie. I've been doing it for months and I'm calling it quick. Funny, Gemma. Anyway, if you want to make a quick, easy cardie in crochet, and I do recommend that, and I'll tell you what I recommend it for. I recommend it for yarns you want to get rid of, that this is a good scrap project, and a lot of people do scrappy yarns when they do their Wrapped in Tiny Chains or one of its cousins from the same designer. The link, by the way, is in my show notes. The show notes, of course, are at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com and on our group on Ravelry. At any rate, this is a great project. I really do believe in having a junky cardigan around the house, one that you're not worried about the moths getting. And this yarn that I'm using is 10% cashmere, while the other 90% is acrylic and nylon. Strangely, it's got a hand like cashmere. It's beautifully soft. So this is my ideal junky cardi, where it's a neutral color. You keep it around the house. You can throw it in the laundry if you have to. And you just keep it by the front door and you're not worried about moths. I do have plans to make some beautiful wool cardis, which I will then spend the rest of my life protecting from the moths that we do get up here on the farm. Okay. Meanwhile, the Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery, I'd really like to get back to that. Just finish it. It's really about 2 weeks of work if I could dedicate myself to it. I have a lot of embroidery projects that I'd like to do, including designing pillow slips and hems on sheets and things like that. The things we did when I was a girl. I really would like to get back to having embroidery around my house. I'm looking at some of our curtains and thinking of embroidering them because really it's a good Elizabethan thing to do. I am an Elizabethan scholar. Why not, really? I also included the link for Jorid Lindvik because she has some incredible books. And yes, I just ordered one from an independent dealer. She has a big book of knitted socks. She has a big book of knitted mittens. I need another sock book, like I need a hole in the head. I've got so many sock patterns that I don't use. I'm a big fan of just plain socks. I always wanted to do patterned socks. And then I say, why? When I could just whip out some plain vanillas this fast and let the yarn do all the work. However, I do want to get into her mittens, I have to say. She's got some insanely beautiful mitts. I've always wanted to do Nordic mitts anyway. So I'm really playing with that. I'm also looking at Bad Wolf Girl Knits patterns because she has so many insanely beautiful patterned pullover sweaters. And so I have many plans. That's what I'm trying to tell you. In the meantime, if you want to see the yarn companies I prefer, you can find my 2 favorite independent dyers, Lisa Souza and Dizzy Blonde, listed in my favorite resources section of my notes. And of course, I always have the links for webs for just basic supplies and good workhorse yarns, and Woolen Company and Sierra Cottons and Wools, 2 of my favorite suppliers. Woolen Company for online, usually big company yarns. Big company, I mean places like Malabrigo. I'm not talking about Lion per se. And also Sierra Cottons and Wools in Bishop is my LYS of choice, with the Altered Stitch down in Valley Village in LA, a close second. I have to put the Altered Stitch in there though. There's also a really good one, Knitting Tree, down in Los Angeles. It's too far from me, much like the Altered Stitch. Altered Stitch isn't that far. That used to be my regular LYS back when it was Stitch Cafe. But right now I don't want an LYS. I don't feel like driving to knit. Spending 2 hours to drive to knit for an hour and then go home, It was a reason to get out of the house, but since the quarantine, really, do I have reasons to get out of the house? Not really. But anyway, I would recommend the Altered Stitch. They specialize in indie yarns and they do Malabrigo. It doesn't get better than that. I'm also fond of L'Atelier on Ventura Boulevard if you're going to be that far down into the San Fernando Valley if you're a local here. And I'm also fond of, as I was saying, Knitting Tree. They do an extraordinary amount of classes, programs, and trunk shows. Still haven't made it there in person because it's a long haul from me. But I would recommend them. I'm just so impressed by the work they're doing. Do I have links to any of these in my show notes? No. Right now, all I've got is Sierra Cottons and Wools. Hey, I have 100 episodes behind me. I'm allowed to be biased. Let's get on to the strategy. And hooray! I think I've just exhausted all the long-term emotional management strategies. That is the day-to-day stuff you do to keep yourself mentally healthy. I think I've just thought up everything I can think of there. So I'm still following loosely the model of DBT, and that takes us into the interpersonal strategies. How do you talk to people more effectively? Whoa. Now, normally, I teach these a little bit in individual outpatient therapy, but These are things that work best, I'm going to tell you right now, in a group setting. And it's very pedagogical. If you're running group therapy and you teach these strategies, everybody gets to practice on everybody else. And that's really very effective because people can sort of call out examples of this. The other thing I want you to know, if you're a reasonably good communicator and you're reasonably successful, this is going to sound a little Mickey Mouse to you. You have to realize that what I do, dialectical behavioral therapy, was designed for people who are not good communicators, who need probably considerably more help than most of the individuals listening to this podcast. However, these are great things to teach to your kids. These are great things to just hear. And as I do these, you're going to recognize that you already intuitively get part of this, but it's always good to hear somebody articulate a system out loud. So having said that, let's start with the basic. How do I talk? How do I make a request? How do I talk? I could go on and on about how you listen and how you talk and how you read body language. And knowing me, I probably will. However, what we're talking about right now is when most people say they have trouble communicating, what they tell you in therapy is, I don't know how to get what I want. And second to that is, I don't know how to confront. Or, I hate confrontation. I don't know how to get what I want is addressed in DBT by the acronym Dear Man, spelled exactly like you're writing in a letter to some guy named Man. Like, Dear Man, how are you doing today? Are you having a good day? Okay. How to confront is mostly covered by an overlap of Dear Man and something called fast, like I'm a fast runner. No, I'm not. That's just an example. Okay. So anyway, those are the two primary communication acronyms, Dear Man and FAST. Dear Man is a great thing to teach to kids. I'm not saying you make your kid memorize it, but I'm saying you use it to explain to kids how to ask for what they want. And it goes like this. D as in dog, E-A-R, and then M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy. Okay, so here it goes. D, describe what you want. Many people practice mind reading. They assume the other person already anticipates what they are asking for. So it is surprising how much communication breaks down because the listener or the person receiving the request actually never figures out or figures out too late in the discussion what the requester wants. So as strange as this sounds, if you're asking somebody to do something, you tell them. You start by telling them what it is you want. Listen, I'm going out grocery shopping today, but we have someone coming over, so we need the bathroom clean. I won't have time to do it. That's it. Notice I didn't ask. I didn't do anything. I simply said, here's the problem. I won't be home and the bathroom needs to be cleaned before I can get home. Okay, that's as simple as it is. I'm making things up. Use your own examples. But this is how easy it is. You have to make sure before you ask for anything, you spell out the problem. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that even in therapy, I'll have people sort of thundering at me before I even figure out, what are you thundering about? What is it you think you're not getting from me that you'd like? You have to tell me. I'm not going to read your mind. Mind reading is one of the cognitive distortions. It's a very common mistake people make. So when you want something from somebody, even if you think it's blatantly obvious, don't skip the D. Describe exactly what you want. And again, you don't have to be asking for anything. You can simply say what the problem is. Why do we say this? Often the other person will help you solve it. So in other words, in the example I'm giving you, I want my husband to clean the bathroom. I would like the bathroom cleaned. I want my husband to clean it. I'm not going to be around to clean it. Okay, in that example, he may be able to give me information I need, like, oh no, I have to go pick our kid up. Wait a minute, we do have a problem. And suddenly I realize what I'm asking for, would you clean the bathroom, isn't going to be realistic. And now we're on to, can we make a new plan? Okay, so often people skip the D. They assume the other person should know, should mind read, should know what you want. Nobody knows what you want till you tell them. But when you start by spelling it out, you give the other person a chance to problem solve with you and to identify anything that's in the way. E, express only your stuff, your opinions, your ideas. So it doesn't sound like this. I know you think I should clean the bathroom. You don't mind. Again, we're back at mind reading. And most of communication that falls apart is, in my experience in therapy at least, is based on this idea the other person should know what you want. They don't. Just assume they don't. Hey, Gemma, are you telling me to talk to other people like they're idiots? Hey, whoever was thinking that, does the phrase respect the other person mean anything to you? In other words, you can do this, even if you think they should know, respectfully. Okay, I know we all asked that question. I know you all respect your listeners, but you want to think about that. There's a way to do this respectfully where you're not being condescending. So, let's move on. Okay, express only your stuff. Do not put words in the other person's mouth. Do not tell them what they should or shouldn't think. Meanwhile, the A, assert yourself in a confident way. Don't cringe up to it. Oh, I know we have someone coming over and I've got to go to the grocery store. Oh, we need that bathroom clean. Don't do that stuff. Again, that's in the kind of slightly disrespectful. You're basically showing you don't trust your listener. Now, I admit there are times that might still be useful. We all have family members who are, but most of the time, you want to be confident. That doesn't mean rude or arrogant. Listen, it's your turn to do the bathroom. That may be true, but is that really a good tone of voice? Or that's not just confidence, that's kind of aggression. Okay, so you can say, we need the bathroom clean, and I did clean it last week, and I do have to go get the groceries, so I'd like you to clean the bathroom. You can do it that way without sounding offensive. But you're allowed to be confident. You are allowed to say why this is fair. If you're not allowed to, you want to look at that relationship. It may have deeper problems. Okay, R, and this is one of my favorites, reward the other person. That is, be nice. When you're talking to the person and you're saying something, nod respectfully when they talk to you. Don't interrupt them. Give them positive perks. If you're making them feel good as you talk to them, they are more likely to go along with your request. So, hey, I know you don't want to do this, but it's your turn to clean the bathroom. Really? Do you honestly think that's rewarding for your listener? But when you change it around, when you say, I have to go out grocery shopping and I just realized the bathroom needs to be cleaned. We have somebody coming over in an hour. How would I reward you? Well, I'd look you in the eye. I'd be calm. I'd be pleasantly assertive, but I would be nice. I would be smiling. I might nod when you talk. If you say what the problem is, I'm going to listen respectfully. So your general attitude, you are confident that you have a right to say what you're saying, assert yourself confidently, but also you are pleasant and rewarding to the person you're talking to. People get very tense when they make requests, and so they often forget they are. They often forget to be open and friendly and rewarding to their listener. Okay, let's get on to the man. Mindfulness, this is going to come up again and again in interpersonal skills. When you say mindfulness, pay attention to what's going on. You're looking at your partner and you're asking them for something. Do they look distracted? Do they look worried? Is something else on their mind? Are you hitting them at a bad time? But also, stay on the topic. Play fair. And this is going to come up again in the fast skills. So you say, we need the bathroom clean. I've got to go get groceries. Someone's coming over in an hour. How do you feel about cleaning the bathroom? And they say, oh, you always do this. We're off topic. What I always do, we can talk about what I always do. But right now we're talking about how we're going to get the bathroom cleaned. So let's stay on topic. So mindfulness in interpersonal skills is almost always about be aware of what the other person is experiencing in the discussion, but also remember what the actual topic is. Okay? And you're off topic almost always when you hear the word always or never. When someone says you always, I always, this never, you never, I never, whenever you hear those words, you're now going into the past and you can't fix the past. And so the answer to that, the answer to always or never is pretty much okay, you think I always do this. We can talk about that too. In other words, we're being respectful. We're rewarding the other person. I hear what you're saying. But right now, we're solving the problem of the bathroom getting cleaned. Okay, so you say, we can come back to that. Okay, that's a good thing to know. You think I always do this. But how are we going to get the bathroom clean? Okay, and I promise we'll come back to the other one. That's how you answer the always or never statement. The truth is you can't fix the past. But also, I have to tell you, when someone makes an always or never statement and you handle it this way, like you say, let's stay on the topic of getting the bathroom clean, but I hear what you're saying and we should probably talk about that. Or do you want to talk, make an appointment. Do you want to talk about that at lunch? Actually, one of the interesting things there, that'll probably solve the always or never problem. Why? Because when a person uses always or never, they're telling you they don't know how to solve problems. You're going to show them how to. We're going to solve this problem with the bathroom right now. We're going to come up with a solution. And now it can go away. We agreed on it. We solved it. Everybody takes responsibility when we agree on a solution. Now it's off the always or never list. We don't want to keep using always or never. It never works. All right. I just said never. Well, I win. I'm the therapist. All right. So M of man is mindful. A is really very much the same A. Try to appear calm and confident. Whenever you request anything, unless it's a crisis, you want to look as calm as you can. Interestingly enough, in a crisis, if you appear calm, you're going to succeed much better. That's the E from accepts, from separate your emotion from the problem. If I'm in a crisis, my emotion is fear. If I handle my fear, I'll handle the crisis better. A little dip back into distress tolerance there. But meanwhile, the A is basically appear calm. Even in an emergency, the more calm you are, the more likely you are to get what you want. People don't respond well to a hysterical appeal, even when it's a reasonable appeal. Oh my God, my foot is on fire. Please put it out, put it out, put it out. When you have that tone, even if you're right, the other person is going to kind of freak out with you. I hate to say this, but you're going to do better if you go, please, my foot is on fire. I need your help to put it out. They'll respond better to that. Just take my word for it. Have I ever lit my foot on fire to do that experiment? No. But you should probably take me seriously. I do this for a living. Can you believe I just said that? Okay, the N, and this is the payoff. The N of Dear Man is negotiate. People make a request with a very straight line mentality. I want this and I need you to do it. That may not be realistic. However, it may seem realistic when you start. So whenever you make a request, you want to realize that there is a high possibility of negotiation. So in my example, I have to go get groceries. We're out of X and we need it for lunch, but somebody's coming over in an hour and I'd like the bathroom clean. I would like you to clean the bathroom. You say to me, I can't because I have to go pick our kid up at school. He can't sit around. I didn't even think about that. I totally forgot. I'm going to have to negotiate this one. No matter how important my priorities seem, you've got a better priority. We have to pick the kid up from school. So I'm going to have to negotiate this one. This kind of thing happens all the time, and a lot of stuff goes south because people do not walk into any request willing to negotiate. Now, there's some interesting thoughts there. There's some interesting corollaries to negotiating. Number one, when you're going to make a request, you should think about it in advance when you can. And you want to think about what other options might be. If I can't get you to do the bathroom, is there some other negotiation? Like, well, what if you're going to pick our kid up from school? What if you go pick up the groceries on the way home or pick up the necessary ones? And I will clean the bathroom. So that's a very reasonable negotiation. What if we call the person who's coming over and say, we're really sorry something came up. Can you come over an hour later? There are always negotiations, almost always, unless your foot is on fire, something, really crisis-like. Most of the time, people are making a crisis where there isn't one, in my experience. That, in other words, a crisis is not what you really, 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 really want. A crisis is something is life-threatening and we have to attend to it. That's kind of a difference, okay? So often we have a lot of created crises in this world, and we have to learn how to recognize, even though this feels like a crisis to me, someone coming over in an hour is not really a crisis. It's just not. Okay, even if you're holding a party and everybody's coming over and the bathroom needs to be clean, it's a party, man. It's not this big of a crisis, and your guests are going to trash the bathroom in half an hour anyway. Okay, but the reality is negotiate. Unless it's really life-threatening, you negotiate. And you have to go in thinking about, if I negotiated this, what might possible negotiations be? So that's corollary number one. Corollary number two is, what I'm really telling you is rehearse. That when you're going to ask for something and it's important to you, practice. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Practice, dear man, practice. How can I ask for this difficult thing? And when you're practicing, practice. What would the other person say to me that would be good, that would be bad, that might really upend everything? Practice, practice, practice. I practice all the time for what I do for a living. I practice talking to patients and clients all the time. Why? Because right after my internship, I got this job, and I was willing to take any job. So I took the worst job, where I was the person that angry parents got to beat up because they wanted their kids to get treatment. And my clinic was giving them psychiatric but refusing them psychotherapy because they were mean to the therapist, because they weren't cooperating with therapy. So I was where that buck stopped. That was my first job out of my internship. So basically I learned that Wednesday was beat up Gemma day, where I would just line up all the angry parents, and all the way in the car I would rehearse. I would drive about 20 minutes to this job and I would rehearse. Yes, I'm sure that's true. However, at this time, based on your behavior with the previous therapist, or you have failed with 3 of our therapists, so that means in my book that you're not really ready to do therapy. And they would just scream. And this got to be a joke. I was given the office in the very back of the building where nobody but admin could hear people screaming at me. But I got very good at it. And I have to tell you, it was some of the best training to be a therapist I can imagine. So anyway, all that goes back to rehearse. Be ready to negotiate. Realize that just because you're making a request, it's not a straight line thing. The other person may see it as very negotiable, so be prepared for that. Think about possible negotiations you would be willing to make, and then practice. So that's Dear Man. Now, there's a few corollaries I have written here, so I'm just going to say it. I've already said a few of them. One, avoid over-emotionalism. That is mindfulness falling apart, the M of man. You know, and again, the 2 A's. You just stay calm. You stay as confident as you can. If someone really surprises you, that can be challenging. The other person can really blindside you. And that's, again, why we want you to think in advance of all the possibilities. You have less chance of being blindsided. And that's really corollary number 2. Think in advance about what you want and practice it. Number 3, you can even take notes. That I've done this on very complicated situations. I'll just sit and free write notes about what do I think is important, what do I think is related to this. And it's surprising where that will take you. That's in the planning stage. Meanwhile, having done Dear Man, even if the other person denies your request, remember the R. Remember that we're trying to be rewarding to the other person. So even if they give you a dead flat no, strange but true, you still want to be rewarding. Which is, you look at them, you smile, and you go, okay, I can see I'm not going to get what I want, but it's important to me that we understand that we're still buddies, and I'm really happy to work with you on this, or whatever. Okay, so in other words, there is a way to lose gracefully, and I'd really recommend you practice it, because you can honestly show another reasonable person that you're disappointed without making a disagreement or a battle. Well, you're saying no now, but you know what? I'm going to hang on with this. I really believe in this. They go, well, you're still going to lose. You laugh and you go, that's okay. No hidden agenda here. I'm going to let you know this is important to me, and I'm going to keep asking. You can do it with a big smile on your face. They may not like that, but they're going to at least respect it. It's better than, you always say no, or great, fine, okay, great, and walking away. You have to try to keep rewarding the other person. If you become punishing, your chances of getting what you want are much smaller. Now, the interesting thing, this goes back to the concept of wise mind. Remember, we have sort of three mindsets. One is emotional mind, where we're just using emotion all the time. That's very childlike. Children don't have experience, so they use emotion. But there's also rationalistic mind. You're doing Mr. Spock. Rationalistic mind may be accurate in a lot of cases, but it's not rewarding for the other person to talk to. Emotion is where you get pleasantness, happiness, smiling, and all that. You don't get that out of rationality. So you don't look at the other person out of rational mind. Okay, fine, I'm not getting what I want. You know what? You're going to be sorry about this. That's all rational, but that's also not rewarding. You want to just do the mix of the rational and the emotional. Okay, I can see I'm not getting what I want here, but I want you to know this is important to me, and I'm probably not going to give up, okay? But I'll try to keep an open mind about what you're saying. Okay, that's wise mind. That is the blend of the rational and the emotional. So you want to stay in wise mind. You don't want to give either a cold response if you're losing or an emotional, angry response, negative response, crying, whatever. You want to stay in wise mind. You want to reward the other person for talking to you. Okay, so that is the biggest set of interpersonal strategies, dear man. Hope you took notes. I still notice I have the model for ACT therapy up because I just can't take it down because I like it so much. I was trying to post Dear Man and not succeeding, putting up one of my images for Dear Man. So I would suggest, if you don't want to take the notes from this podcast, you can try Googling Dear Man. Hopefully I'll figure out some way of correcting that and giving you Dear Man in more than just the words Dear Man. In other words, spelling out the acronym. But if you're looking at the show notes, you can see the ACT hexagon. For those of you who are wondering what that is, that's some brilliant research on what brings people into psychotherapy. And I think it's just a terrific model. ACT therapy fits any protocol. You can be a talk therapist using it. You can be a DBT or a cognitive therapist using it. It doesn't matter because it's really about why are your people in your office? And so on that, I like that particular diagram because in black it's got what are the 6 core traits that you're teaching in therapy, and in red it's got when is that going wrong. So for example, when I was talking about always or never, if you look at the tip of the hexagram in that diagram, it says present. Okay, a person who is succeeding emotionally is living in the present. Someone who's using always or never is living in the past. You can't fix the past. We don't want people living in the future because people create phony futures. They predict a future that doesn't happen. Hello, anxiety. That's where it comes from. Okay, we live in the present. We don't know the future. We can't change the past. So when a patient comes in and they were talking about, my husband always, he always, the reality is, let's start fixing the present. We fix the present event by event. That will get rid of the always or never thing. Okay. Meanwhile, I've got some links for the Ukraine. Yeah, getting a little dated, but I'm going to leave them there. In the fluffy books, again, I still have the links to the free textbook on cultural anthropology, which I need to start reading since I don't seem likely to be taking a class next semester. And there's also Introduction to American Deaf Culture by Holcomb. I'm still in the middle of the Beatrice Hyde Clare series. I've got the link to the first book by Lynn Messina. And then there's She-Hulk on Disney. I watched the last episode. Whoa, baby. Whoa, baby. I am still thinking about it. My initial response is a strong right on. Right on. The problem I have had with the whole series is it keeps falling apart because just here's an idea. Google She-Hulk and then click on images and look at all the images. It is such soft porn. It is obviously for young men who can't get a girlfriend on their lonely nights. You follow my drift. Okay. She-Hulk in the comics has always been kind of soft porn. It's a wildly built woman. Oh, green, who cares? She's still beautiful. She's got rich, thick, curling hair. How come when David Banner or Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk, he doesn't get great hair? Did you notice? She gets great hair. I could say the same thing about his memories and hers. That her turning into the Hulk makes his look really ugly. So let's be honest. You're doing She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and you're trying to make this feminist video show, But you're using a model that has been nothing but soft porn for 20, 30, 40 years. And that's the whole inherent problem in She-Hulk. And so She-Hulk has tried to take that on in previous episodes, my favorite far and away being the Megan Thee Stallion episode, which is so funny, but is both feminist and incel lonely night material, for lack of a better phrase. Okay. And so I kept saying, like, this is so great, except there's this huge problem. That's what they do in the finale. That's what they talk about. And I don't want to blow it. But what is so interesting, and she's really nice. She points out, they point out the opening is a return to the 70s. And I've read a few people talking about this, and they talk about, oh, Marvel's trapped in its trap. And they're joking about that. But Marvel's making another point, I hope. They refer to the 1970s Incredible Hulk series. And there's 2 points that are obvious to me that I don't see anybody making, which is in the television series in the 1970s with Bill Bixby doing the Hulk. It's called Incredible Hulk. But when they redo it with her, they call it Savage She-Hulk. Okay, so when you put a woman in the role, they are obliquely pointing out she's not incredible anymore. She's vicious. If you give a woman power, she's vicious. Wow, good. Because they used to call her that. In the Marvel Comics, she was a Savage She-Hulk. Whoa, give a woman power, she's vicious. Isn't that amazing? Anybody ever call him Savage Iron Man? You ever hear Savage Spider-Man? I mean, I'm just curious why that happens to women. So, points to Marvel for that. But also there's an oblique reference. In the 1970s, since I was there as a teenager, let me tell you, The Incredible Hulk was actually scripted by a guy named Kevin Johnson, who's very remarkable. He wrote the pilot for Incredible Hulk, which I watched, which was pretty intelligent. Why would I watch something written by Kevin Johnson? He was the guy who piloted The Bionic Woman. The Bionic Woman was wildly feminist. It was a woman who gets bionic powers because she hangs out with Steve Austin, who is the Bionic Man, the $6 Million Man. Curiously, though, they give her a spin-off series, and Kevin Johnson says, why would she turn into Steve Austin? Now that she's got bionic powers, what is it like if you give this kind of power to women? Kevin Johnson does this remarkably feminist thing. He says she would want to stay a school teacher. Sound familiar, She-Hulk fans? And she would not want to use bionic power to hurt people. In fact, she would be probably, since she's a school teacher, I think she's a 5th grade teacher, 4th or 5th grade teacher. She's in primary school, I remember that. She would probably want to use her powers non-violently for good. And when Kevin Johnson is helming the series, that's what the Bionic Woman does. So this is the same creator for both series. And when Johnson is writing about the Hulk, Hulk is sympathetic. However, he runs out of plots. He does with the Bionic Woman as well. Why? Because we didn't even know in the 1970s how to write these stories. That we thought we were very feminist, some ways we were, but women's available career choices were so limited in the 1970s. Kevin Johnson writes her as a nun, writes her as a rockette. I mean, he can't figure out what to do with the character. And so it eventually just, runs out of steam after like 1.5 years. But that is hidden in that reference to the 1970s TV series. The other thing going on in the 70s is Wonder Woman. And they start her as a 1940s character, and then they bring her into late 70s, early 80s. And again, they don't know how to write a powerful, intelligent woman who refuses to buy into misogyny. Okay, but that is in the background of the Incredible Hulk in the 1970s, is that there's these 2 strong feminist attempts on television, the Bionic Woman and Wonder Woman. And to me, that was really critical, because then we meet the writers, so to speak, of She-Hulk, and it's mostly women, but they're being guided by a guy, and I'm not going to ruin it after that. But it's a very, very smart ending. And the question is can we even follow the models that Marvel has set up to do this series? And again, it's a model. And so they question, don't we just keep doing the same thing over and over? There's a wonderful moment where a Marvel representative says, I read the internet to find the response. And then it's immediately revealed that he, she, it, they do not read the internet, because on the internet, everybody's saying, you guys keep doing the same things over and over. So I have to tell you, if I had known the finale was going to be like this, I got to erase a lot of my previous negative statements. The whole fourth wall thing, everything. And the fourth wall thing becomes very interesting in the finale, because breaking the fourth wall is, of course, about the fact that fans keep talking back, and because of social media, content producers now have to listen to us. And there's an implication that women want to do that more than men, that women want to talk back to their television. So I leave that in the open. But anyway, I do recommend the finale of She-Hulk. Let me tell you, it was a remarkable experience, to say the least. Well, since I have talked so much about it, I have to say something I really like: voting. Is everybody voting? Everybody's registered? Everybody, if your state lets you vote early, you can vote right now. Californians, you certainly can. And I am going long here. Oh my goodness, very long. All right. Something else I really like: indie dyers late at night. Yes, it's true. I buy yarn late at night from indie dyers. And that's because late at night I want to buy things. Now, I haven't in a long time, but I want to point out, when you've got that buying urge where you realize you're going to buy something or you need a reward or something, go look up your favorite indie dyers. With that, I want to say Rock and String Yarns. She's rebranding herself, and I'm not sure which direction she's going. But I'm just going to say I want to wish her luck. I've gotten some gorgeous self-striping yarns from her. And I really want to thank her, because one time I ordered from her and she became ill and she didn't tell anybody. And so my yarn just vanished into the cosmos. And I just gently wrote to her a few times and said, hey, whatever's going on, you know, I understand life happens. She ended up sending me a free skein of beautiful DK along with my order. And I'm always grateful for that. I think it's important to realize the indie people have lives. And, you know, indie dyeing, at this point, I really can't afford it. I have to be honest that it's only for the occasional special skein. The exceptions, Lisa Souza is a big exception. And I'm loyal to other people like Dizzy Blondes, and so I do watch for sales, because the exception is sales. I also want to point out Onyx has backed off a little bit too, and she's another wonderful, wonderful dyer. So let's try to remember with the indie dyers, buy yourself a treat every now and then. We've already talked about how you can use your special skein in other projects. But in the meantime, let's remember that when indie dyers back off, they have good reasons. They have lives, they have kids, they have families. They're not big box, and they bring something special and unique to what we do. So let's try to keep supporting them where we can. All right, meanwhile, what else? I haven't been much in the kitchen lately because I'm living off keto shakes, which is kind of embarrassing, and I'll talk about that later. In the blather, ASL. Oh my gosh, I think we're on week 9 actually, and we're having to tell stories of our childhood. Do you know how embarrassing it is to say I don't remember any, or at least any that I can convert into a good format? So I'm busy making up a story. You heard it here. On the pup date, well, nothing really is going on there. The boys are home, the pups are in the house, they're getting more attention. So I posted cute pictures of both our pups. The wonderful, wonderful Captain is heading towards her gotcha anniversary on November 1st. And so she's over a year old. What is she born? I think she's born in July. But she's just a big pooper. And then, of course, Queenie is heading, let me think, she's born in May. So she is heading for the 6-month mark. And the picture of Queenie is notable because her paws are dirty. She has beautiful white forepaws, which she does not take care of. Eleanor, like many collies, was kind of obsessed about cleaning her forepaws. Queenie, as you can see, likes them in the dirt. I have to say, Captain and Queenie are so unlike their predecessors, Baron and Eleanor. It's hilarious. They're both balls of fire. They're both brilliant. Now, Eleanor was smart and Baron was a genius. And they leave them both standing. So they are the fun dogs of my 60s. I think Baron and Eleanor were the dogs of my 50s. They both lasted about 9 years, although it seemed like it went by in a heartbeat. So now apparently I've gotten rocket scientists with high energy for my 60s. So I guess I'm supposed to keep it on for a long time. They are just a blast, and they need more love than they're getting. And every weekend I forget to buy training collars for them because I really need to start working on that, especially before Queenie gets her big floof and no collar will get through her fur. The beloved Hubs has been home now since, was it this past Tuesday? Yeah, it was this past Tuesday he came home. And he came home while I was working, and normal life just resumed. Like it was like I blinked and everything was normal again. However, I have to tell you, it's more like I'm on this weird extended vacation where I don't have to get up at dawn and rush out and feed everybody. The pony now is like, you, who are you? The alpaca still looks sadly. Her name's Jubilee, but I started calling her little sister, and the pony was big sister. But the pony's, she talks to me now. She does say, where's the boy? Is one of you going to feed me? She now includes me in that. Okay. So in the meantime, we're readjusting, and it's like I'm on this weird vacation where I get to sleep till 7:45 and feed the dogs and love and pet everybody with a lot less responsibility around the house. But a few things have changed, like I now have the habit of throwing dish towels around the house on Sundays, and all the weekend I just walk around. Every time I see a dish towel, I dust wherever it is. So that's gotten to be a fun thing. And I've developed the weird habit of keto shakes instead of lunch, which I have to say I'm rather enjoying. On the calendar, I did it. I took vacation at Christmas time. It's true. I took the 26th through the 30th, and I will take the 31st, which is a Saturday, and when I accumulate enough hours to do it. Why? Because I'm going to have a Romuel. I just decided Romuel is going to be part of my life. I have sacrificed so much this year, including vacation time with the husband's eyeball crises, and I thought, if nothing else happens, Romuel. And so, yes, I will be off the 26th through the 30th. If you want to make plans, you want to meet up, you want to go someplace for lunch, you want to meet in LA, I don't care. I'm open for that, but I am going to give myself a Christmas break this year. And as soon as I accumulate like another 2 hours, I'm going to take the 31st off as well. I'm going to take it off anyway, even if I do it with no vacation time. Meanwhile, on the calendar, Stitches SoCal is still on. I will be there November 13th. Sunday, and if you want to message me, if you want to go to lunch, if you want to do anything, I will be there. I am working on the 12th, but we're not out of the realm of possibility that I come down the night of the 12th. It depends. If there's a deaf event, I may have to go to that. Grand Canyon is still on for June 5th to 9th, when I will have accumulated enough vacation time, we can only hope, of 2023, by the way. Sunnybank is tentatively on for August 17th through 21st. So that is the calendar. Minerva gets the last word. She wants to tell you that she is readjusting to the boys being home by proudly not coloring inside the lines. Yes, I posted pictures of her looking defiant and then carefully knocking a vitamin bottle off my desk. You can see the whole process from thinking about it to actually beginning to tip it and push it off the desk. And then you can see it, alas, forlorn on the floor. That is Minerva letting us know that she is still in control here and she is still setting my schedule. I believe at the time she was telling me to go to bed. So there we go. That is Minerva. She is still running the roost even though the boys are home. She is still top cat. In the meantime, everybody, you know the drill. Wear your mask in a crowd, get your booster shots, wash your hands, socially distance. It's not that hard to do, even in a store. You can do it. Most of all, everybody, please remember COVID is still out there. There's a nasty variant going around in Europe right now, so I don't think we're quite done, although we keep hoping. But most of all, get all your shots. If you're eligible, shingles, flu, pneumonia, do all that stuff. Take care of yourself. We're not used to having colds anymore. We've gotten used to wearing masks and having a lot less infection. So you know what? Masks are still an option, but washing your hands and distancing is great no matter what you're avoiding. get your shots, get your boosters, get your kids their shots. This is the time of year to do all that. In the meantime, everybody, the whole point, never forget, is stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.